Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Who hosted the Illinois Fighting Illini on Tuesday night, and it did not go well. So I'll be honest. First of all, of every game on Tuesday night, I think this was the one that I was the most excited about going into the night. By the way, total side tangent. Hate that the Big Ten has decided to put their biggest games in the middle of the week on Peacock, okay? I'm sorry. It's hard. I have cable. I want to flip from ESPN to ESPN2 to FS1 to CBS Sports Network. Can we put it on regular TV? Can we put it on regular? All I want to do is watch Illinois, Indiana. All I want to do is watch Umar Ballo give 5% effort on a Tuesday night. Is that too much to ask? Anyway, all right. Let's go ahead and dive into this game. But I was excited, and I'll tell you why. One, I believe Illinois, as I said on Friday's show, I think they have as much upside as pretty much anybody in all of college basketball, okay? Now, I know people are going to say, oh, they lost on Saturday. Well, they lost on Saturday because they were without a lottery pick, okay? How good is Duke without Cooper Flagg? That's the equivalent of Illinois not having Kasper Siakashonis, okay? But Illinois, they get Kasper Siakashonis back, their lottery pick point guard, and they were going to Indiana. And I'll say this for Indiana. Coming into Tuesday night, they had an interesting resume because they were 13-4 overall. No really great wins, but for the most part, they were kind of taking care of business at home, right? When they lose, it's sometimes an embarrassing fashion. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But at least at home, they were protecting their home court. They lost by 25 on Saturday night, but that was at Iowa. So you think they're going to come home. They're going to protect their home court. They're going to be much better. That did not happen because how about this? Indiana loses to Illinois. Final score 94-69. 94-69. It was Indiana's biggest home loss in program history. They gave up 60 points in the first half, trailed by 28 at halftime. And as the game went final, you could hear this at Assembly Hall. That was the Indiana student section screaming, chanting, clapping, fire Woodson. Fire Mike Woodson. So let's go ahead and dive into the state of Indiana because to me, this felt like the unofficial end of an era at Indiana. By the way, very quickly before we even get to Indiana, I think part of this is just Illinois is really freaking good. I said it the other day. I believe, as I just said, that they might have the highest upside of anyone in college basketball. By the way, I tweeted that out on Tuesday night. People got mad at me. I said, Auburn is deserving to be the best team in college hoops, but you're going to have a hard time convincing me that anyone is playing better than Illinois right now. Well, of course, when I tweeted that, a bunch of casuals who don't watch college basketball said, Torres, they lost on Sunday. Well, guess what? Their starting point guard was out, who's a lottery pick. Last 3 games with Kasper Siakashonis in. At Oregon, a top 10 team at the time, they win by 32 points, beat Washington by 4 on the road, and then they did beat Penn State by 39 before that loss. So don't tell me that they're not playing well, but that's not what this is about. Today, people, it is about Indiana, and it is about the future of Mike Woodson. And it's kind of funny. Listen, I think most people know the history here. I was not a big fan of Mike Woodson. Ironically, I think there's a tweet of me saying, I guess Indiana's a football school now. Maybe a little bit of a premonition by Torres. I mean, who knew that I was right? But shout out Kurt Signetti, by the way. But at the same time, look, when I look at this situation, a couple things stand out. Because people say, oh, it's too early to judge Mike Woodson. Don't tell Indiana fans that because they're ready to move on, okay? And for people who don't know his track record, he's been there for 4 years. This is year 4. Year 1, 21-14. Made the NCAA tournament in the first 4. So in other words, they had to play that Tuesday night, Wednesday night game. They do win a game, get into the main bracket, lose. Second year, they go 23-12 and go to the NCAA tournament, win a game, and then lose in the second round. In defense of Mike Woodson, they end up losing to Miami. Miami makes the Final Four. So first of all, 2 pretty uninspired years to start. Last year, they go 19-14, and there was already talk about, like, are we sure we should bring back Mike Woodson this season, the 24-25 season, or should we move on? Especially because, of course, Dusty May was available, the former Indiana student manager who's an Indiana graduate. They decide to give Mike Woodson another year. And beyond that, they didn't just give him another year. The issue is they gave him another year and very publicly a lot of NIL money, okay? And so when you look at this team, it's not just that they're not terrible, okay? But at the same time, elevated expectations are across the board. And so when you give millions of dollars in NIL, when it's very public that you have one of the biggest NIL budgets in all of college basketball, yeah, you're expected to win. Well, there's a few issues with that. One, when you lose, again, 13-5 isn't terrible. The issue is when you lose, it is often in like the most embarrassing fashion possible, okay? You go back to Indiana when they played in the Bahamas. They got embarrassed in a couple games. They lost by 28 to Louisville. Not great. They lost by 23 to Gonzaga. You could sit there and say 26 to Gonzaga, excuse me. Oh, Gonzaga's good. Well, you should have lost by 28 to Louisville in Pat Kelsey's first month as Louisville head coach. You lose to Nebraska on the road. I think the score was not reflective of how close that game was. But then, as I said, a 25-point road loss to Iowa, a 25-point home loss, to Illinois as well. I think the other issue, it ain't going to get any easier from here. 2 games against Purdue still on the schedule. Purdue, we could, joke, but they're pretty good. Michigan at home. I think that's going to be a tough one in early February. Dusty May coming home with maybe the best team in the Big Ten. Michigan State all of a sudden looks like a contender in the Big Ten. Ohio State, they have to play twice. Ohio State's not playing well, but they're a tough team that's not going to roll over. And so that's part of the issue is they're 13-5 and they still feel like they have 5, 6, 7 losses on the schedule, no great wins. But here's the really big picture issue with Indiana right now. It's not just that you're losing. It's not just that you're getting embarrassed often. It's that you're getting embarrassed off the court often, okay? So a couple things here. One, there had been discipline issues in the program previously. Some of it got reported, some of it didn't. I think most Indiana fans know what I'm talking about. But then this year, you got a bunch of highly paid kids that are, and by the way, we got to remember too, Indiana is the program of Bob Knight, the program of no nonsense, the program of no BS. Well, I bring it up because you have a bunch of high profile kids that are getting paid a lot of money and they're kind of doing dumb stuff, right? Umar Ballo, we all saw their starting center who's supposedly getting right around 7 figures as a college basketball player. He showed up at a bar like at midnight the night before a game and gets suspended the next game and nobody will talk about it. That's not great. That is embarrassing for the program. By the way, producer Matt, I wish I had you pull the picture. It's kind of funny. Umar Ballo, 7'2" guy, just standing in the background trying to hide. Like, okay, you're 7'2", bro. It's not going to work. So your star player or your key player shows up to the bar the night before a big game. By the way, Umar Ballo got ejected on Tuesday night. You had players coming out and saying, if you don't want to support us, then whatever, we don't want you when we win. And so it's not just that you're losing on the court. It's that you are embarrassing the university off the court as well. And that's where I go to. I do kind of think that this is the beginning of the end for Mike Woodson. Excuse me. Bottom line is, listen, program is not having success on the court. They're embarrassing off the court. And I do think you kind of look at him, you kind of look at some of his responses. He looks like he's already worn down from the job. Now, this was my issue when he got hired 4 years ago, is a guy that's 63, 64, going to have the energy in this new NIL world. But I look at the state of things. He looks beat down. They've spent a lot of money in NIL. Obviously, they're going to be hesitant to spend money again this offseason to support this program. And so even if they make the tournament, I wonder if he's gone. And then certainly if they miss the tournament, there's no doubt that he's gone. Lastly, I'll just say before we get to some of the other games from Tuesday night, I think it's probably a little too early to start talking about next head coach, but I think that is one of the frustrating things about this situation. Dusty May was there for the taking a year ago. Florida Atlantic coach, went to a Final Four, was an Indiana alum, was a student manager under Bobby Knight. He was there. He was going somewhere after last year. Now, there's no guarantee it would have been Indiana, but it probably would have been hard to turn down. He's now at Michigan. He is going to be a thorn in your side for the next 20 years. But now that he's not available, it's like, who's the great candidate? I saw Jeff Goodman kind of reference in passing, oh, call Scott Drew. It's like, if Scott Drew turned down Louisville and Kentucky in the same offseason, I don't think he's leaving. I know he's from Indiana. His dad coached at Valpo. Maybe it's a little bit different. I don't know. I mean, he just turned down Kentucky and Louisville. I don't know. Is Indiana gonna move the needle for him? By the way, worth noting, his team's not playing that well either right now. I saw some Indiana fans clamoring for TJ Otzelberger, the Iowa State coach. Great coach. Number 2 team in the country right now. Has that toughness and ethos that you want. Here's the problem. He's got like a 15, 16, $17 million buyout. So I don't think he's going anywhere. You're going to have to spend all your money, all your NIL money on just buying out Iowa State's coach. I don't think that's going to happen. Do you go with a young guy like Ben McCollum, who's kind of on the way up, dominating at Drake this year? I don't know. But I think on top of everything, that's the frustrating part, is that you had Dusty May, you didn't get him, and now there's no great candidate.